She's a bona fide lady of the first degree, refined and dignified in her pearls and jeans. Still drives me crazy continually.
How are you, everybody? Welcome to Living on Music. And boy, I could just have Eric sing for the rest of the day after hearing that. This is a very, very special night. If you could see in the back of where I am right now, you see the Ryman, and it is the Ryman Auditorium, which is where I had my background before about 3 weeks ago when Eric was scheduled to be on our show and had to postpone. We'll chat about that in a minute. But we have a very, very special musician here with us tonight. And it's funny, as I've said with a couple of guests previous to Eric Scott, the Sidleys and Flo Anito. I met Eric actually first when I was singing at an Elvis Costello tribute at the Barns. And boy, do I have a story, Eric. I got to tell you what happened that night in the parking lot afterwards. But it was an amazing experience to see Eric Scott perform in person. I had heard about his talent, and to see him bring his soul out and his heart and his zest for music was something to behold. And I always really, really hoped that I'd be able to talk to him a little, and we did on the website a little while back. Eric is a 15-time Whammy winner, and that's great. Awards are amazing. That he goes deeper than that. This is one of this area's finest musicians. He's been a solid and respected sideman. With a number of different people, sharing the stage with people like B.B. King, Mavis Staples, Aaron Neville, even Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. And I wanted to hear about that story about being around Roger Waters. Had to be a trip. But also while working hard as a solo artist, releasing a number of solo albums with another on the way. I would like to welcome, and boy, I've been waiting for this for a while, the very soulful Mr. Eric Scott. What's up, my man? How are you?
I'm great, Steve. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great now. It's so good to see you. Again, as I said, I had the Ryman behind me when we had you scheduled the 3 weeks ago. I know that your core knows this, but you had to postpone because your father fell ill with coronavirus and eventually passed away. And we want to send our deepest condolences and love to you on that loss. And I hope you're doing okay. What is it like right now playing music, and also touching on a little bit about dealing with losing a close family member right now? It's not a regular world in any way.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for your condolences. I remember the day that I was supposed to be on your show very well, because I actually had talked to a doctor around 5:30 that day, and I got a very negative report. And my world kind of stopped at that point, because I knew that I was going to spend the next couple of hours getting my family members up to speed and everything like that. So I was actually on the fence. I was like, should I do this? But of course I couldn't do it. My father's passing, the pandemic is strange enough. For me, the pandemic is first 2 weeks was unemployment. And then after that, unfortunately, my father tested positive for COVID. And then there was a 4-week journey, and then his unfortunate passing. So, I'm still somewhat in a fog, quite honestly, but, I
bet.
Yeah.
I was walking my dog, Atticus, down the street, and I got the call from you, and I knew that something was up. But I just wanted to tell you again, we send our love to you. Tell us a little bit about, and there'll be a point when we have this show, as we get past this pandemic, where this won't be the lead question, but it seems to need to be, because musicians are my life. Write about them. I am a musician, a cover band guy. I love all musicians that I know. You guys have been through a lot right now. You're trying to get back out and play. What has it meant to you, this whole kind of quarantining situation, and how are you doing musically? And I know you're playing online. We'll talk about that in a minute. But how are you doing, kind of keeping busy out there?
Well, I think we touched on this before. Now, the live streams have been an amazing discovery, if you will, and coupled with the fact that musicians need to play and folks need to hear music, I think it's been a perfect union. So when musicians are playing, people have been very generous, and they've been very receptive, So that's been something that has very much helped me during this strange time.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you've done a lot of prior to this. How did it feel to kind of crawl into another performing world without people cheering you on and saying, we love you, and they're right like 10 feet away?
Well, that part still feels strange
Yeah.
when you finish a song and there's complete silence. And I have this annoying habit of when I finish a song of going, thank you. But I realize like nobody's even responding to me when I
Right.
do that. But you get used to it, you get used to it. You find your own little comfort level with it. And you just imagine that people are following along with you.
We did a live show yesterday, me and Jess Robinson and our little duo, and we had about 20 people in the yard, socially distanced.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful experience to actually be out and playing in front of people again. So that's going to be an incredible experience. You were talking a little bit about getting booked already for some gigs in the next month or two. Do you think those are going to really happen? And I think people are trying to at least do outside seating, right?
I'm starting to get contacted by a few little gigs here and there, mostly of the restaurant, outdoor seating variety. But quite frankly, it hasn't been enough, for me to go, okay, I can fill up my schedule now. I don't know when we're going to see that point,
Right.
I really don't. It could be September, October, who knows? But hopefully I'm jonesing so bad to do a gig in front of an actual real human.
Right.
Hopefully
Yeah.
something will happen in June, like one will come up and I'll be able to do it. So
Yeah, I mean, how, this, there's an economic angle to this, obviously, when you're a musician and you can't go out and play and you're relying on virtual PayPal tip jars and kind of people hopefully picking up some of your swag or some of your music. How are you doing? And is it going to be a big recovery to come out of this without getting, too detailed into your own economics, of course?
yeah. Well, it was scary. It was very scary at first. Steve, somehow, strangely enough, I'm scrapping and scraping my way through. I've been able, a couple folks have hired me, corporations have hired me for like virtual happy hour live streams, kind of stuff like that. People have been very, very kind. They'll send a check in the mail, something like that. I think they understand the musician's plight right now. Anybody that's self-employed, folks that have a job, their hearts are really showing right now and just helping us out, So it's been working out. I did navigate my way through the Maryland unemployment maze, and I finally did just starting to get unemployment. So it's working out. I'm not on the street asking for quarters yet.
Well, you can busk.
Right, that's true.
People will run to you when you're busking on the street.
I don't know about that mask, though. I don't know, singing through that mask.
Yeah. Well, and we did our gig yesterday, and we didn't have a masks. That we were separated by about 20 feet from people. But tell me a little bit about anything that you're doing at home that you really hadn't done before this kind of self-quarantining. Is there anything that's come out and said, wow, I hadn't done this before? I know this. Talked to a couple of people, like Dave Chappell is starting to cook. The Sidleys, Annie's doing some different stuff. Flo Anito's learning how to play blues guitar. Anything you're doing differently, or things that are kind of learning, or you're just kind of trying to keep the the engine steaming ahead?
Anything that I'm learning. I am setting the groundwork for having my own mobile recording situation where I can actually do tracks for people from the comfort of my basement, which strangely enough is I've never been able to do that. So I'm getting an interface, a laptop. So I'm researching all that. I don't know that I'm learning as much, but I'm using my dishwasher a hell of a lot, which I've never.
I know, isn't that unbelievable? What is with the dishwasher?
I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm using this dishwasher like every day almost.
Yeah, it's like dishwashers and garbage. It's like the garbage is bigger and the dishwashers are getting full quicker.
Yes.
Eric, you, as we just talked about a minute ago, you've found your online presence. I've watched several of your online shows, pieces and bits and pieces of them, because I love you and your voice. But last night was one that really jumped out at me when I was going online to kind of check out what you've been doing in the last day or two. You had some wonderful comments about last night, and I think you took that show, as you often do, pretty personally, and there's a topical part to you that is a part of your past, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But tell me about last night and some of the songs that you were prompted to kind of play when we're in this incredible situation of not only a COVID pandemic, but also a tremendously fierce protesting environment because of the George Floyd death.
Anybody that knows me knows that I'm very much aware of. I try to be anyway of what's going on socially, and obviously with George Floyd's death, it's affected me deeply. As far as doing a live stream yesterday, quite honestly, I wasn't going to do one. I was going to take the week off, and I decided Sunday morning, with no advertisement or anything, that I would do one. And I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I mean, I've been watching cities burning, cars burning, people clashing with police, people crying, this horrific image of George Floyd under a policeman's neck. I just felt deeply about it, and I decided to put a group of songs together that were resonant with today's time, and it was amazing. So I went and did some Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, some Marvin Gaye, Buffalo Springfield, a little Ben Harper, all songs that are about people getting together, rising up, and using their voices. And it was just really, really special. I think I needed it for myself to do it. It was really special. It really was.
And that's and therein lies the power and the beauty and the magic of music. Not only is it a kind of a way to express your opinions and your soul, and this is an incredible time right now. People have had it, and it's tough to hear the world of protest burning down courthouses and police stations. But these are people that have, and I don't want to go too deep here, but there have been nonviolent, peaceful protests that we've seen, like Colin Kaepernick, and nobody paid attention, or they berated him for doing it. And that was the way that we should be listening to that, and not just saying, well, okay, that doesn't matter, because people are going to get outraged. So you did "What's Going On" by Marvin Gaye, right? I'm going to go back and look at that. I didn't see it on the show, and that is a perfect song. You're going to play, luckily for everybody on right now, we have a nice audience. You're going to do a song right now that's got a little bit of oomph from that, right? A song called "Peace Bomb."
Yes, absolutely. The CD that I'm about to release, although I'm going to start by releasing singles, is titled "Peace Bomb." And I tried to take a notion, a bomb, obviously, when you think of a bomb falling and landing, it spreads destruction. And I thought, what if a bomb landed and instead of destruction, it spread peace? Voila. Yeah. So
give it to us. Give it to us, my brother. Give it to us.
I'll give it to you. Maybe one day we'll see that happen, but I can do it in song anyway. Brothers, sisters, let's come together, 'cause this is serious. There's a situation that I must mention, and I believe it needs our attention. Hatred, injustice, an epidemic gaining ground. Let's stop pointing fingers and spread more love around. But I can't be waiting on you, so I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb, and I'm gonna blow up the world. That's right, Steve. Oh, yes, I am. Woo! Fathers, mothers, let's teach our children to love one another. Schemers and dreamers, we all share in this creation. If we want to see change, we got to use our imagination. But don't make me wait on you. I'm gonna see this thing through. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb, yeah. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb, and I'm gonna blow up the world. yes, I am. Everybody, won't you gather around? This thing is about to hit the ground. It's gonna light up the sky. It's gonna blow our minds, yeah. And it might be in time to save the world. I'm gonna set on the peace bomb. I'm gonna set on the peace bomb, yeah. I'm gonna set on the peace bomb. I'm gonna set on the peace bomb. I'm gonna set on the peace bomb. Oh, and I'm gonna blow up the world. Oh, yes, I am. I got my finger on the button, baby. I'm gonna set off a peace bomb. Everybody, won't you gather round? Won't you gather round?
Yeah. You know what? That is an anthem of the times, my friend. I think that thing needs to go viral. You know, let's get it on.
Let's drop it as a single and hope that 10 million people will listen to it.
Yes, I like that idea. Tell me how that came to you. You know.
Wow. Again, I just I feel deeply when there's social unrest, and I wish I could just wave my hand and make peace and just make people get along and make people accept one another. I just wanted to put that notion in song and do it in a creative, different way that maybe hasn't been said before. So somehow the notion of a bomb, you know, I just tried to think of a bomb as working in reverse, right. You know, instead of causing destruction. What if a bomb actually caused peace and acceptance and spread love, you know? So that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, well, that makes some beautiful sense right now. I think everybody would like to have that kind of mindset. This compassion that you feel, which has been obvious in the short amount of time we've known each other, and it's even when I interviewed you for livingonmusic.com not long ago, you grew up in a pretty challenging environment, not only biracial, which creates issues to try to kind of find yourself. Your mom seemed like a champion of 3 jobs and really kind of ran the roost in terms of getting you guys together. Your father was in prison. This was and you were always the new kid. How does that convey into the way you are now? I mean, how did you get through that and be the kind of man you are now, which doesn't seem like somebody with a lot of bitterness and resentment? You've got more kind of love and kind of hope in your heart. At least that's what I sense.
Oh, you're going deep there, Steve.
I am. We're deep on Living on Music.
Yeah, man. How does it convey today? Well, as a kid, you know, like you touched on some important things. I was always the new kid. Back when I was going to school as a young man, we had this thing called busing. I know a lot of people out there probably don't even know what that is, but that was when they would bring African American kids into predominantly white school districts, and the African American kids did not want to be there, so inject this little biracial kid into the middle who really had an identity crisis. And, you know, my father wasn't around. He was locked up. I didn't really have parents to explain what was going on, you know, and how I should feel about where I fit in with things. And I got used to hearing this question quite often when I was a kid. What are you? And it would come from both sides, you know, blacks, whites. How did it manifest itself today? I mean, I had a tendency to keep a lot of things in, you know, and try to internalize it and figure it out for myself. But I think it gave me a unique perspective. You know, I just saw a lot of hostility on both sides of the fence. And I think that was the seed that was planted in me that comes out musically, you know, to try to sing about it and talk about it, race relations and bringing people together.
Well, that's beautiful. And, you know, it's an amazing, your mom is still with us. Is your mom still with us?
Yes, yes. My mom is still here in good old North Beach, Maryland. She's still. Yeah.
How old is she?
My mom is 74. Forgive me, Mom, for telling your age.
Well, that's a beautiful thing to still have your parents. I lost mine about 14 years ago at 74 and 69. I miss them greatly. So it's great that she's around. She had a music collection, as far as I remember talking, and when I was researching you before, that spanned, and you have a Black Sabbath Paranoid t-shirt on, which I just adore. And it makes sense because her music collection went from heavy metal to jazz to pop to rock to Motown. How did that influence you? That's often a huge part of the influence of a musician.
I actually have thanked my mom for that. I didn't realize it at the time, but yeah, I would not have known of this album were it not for my mom. And of course, I listened to this record ad nauseum when I was a kid. I loved Black Sabbath, but my mom's musical tastes were all over the place. She had Dave Brubeck, Marvin Gaye, Led Zeppelin, just amazing. The Temptations, ELO, Elton John, Hall Oates. It was just all over the place, England Dan and John Ford Coley.
Yeah.
I
really want to sleep. I really want to be there tonight. Oh yeah, I love them.
I'd love to see you tonight.
Yeah.
So
I love that song.
And it opened my mind to everything. I mean, I love everything from the Carpenters to, Pantera. I really do. As long as it's good and it's has some heart in it. But I owe that to my mom. She really just exposed me to so many different types of music. I will be forever grateful to her.
Did she sit and play the music for you? How did the music come into you? Is it all vinyl? I would think, or largely.
Yeah. She would just come home. I remember, back then we had Waxy Maxis and stuff like that, and she would come home sometimes, and I would remember this little, paper bag, and she'd have a couple new albums, and I just put them on our turntable, and I had headphones. And I would listen, that was my escape as a child. And I even worked it out where I could plug in to one of the little auxiliary inputs when I started playing bass. And I started to play bass along with the songs, But I spent a great deal of my youth with headphones on, listening to albums, all kinds of albums.
Did you? When did you really find your like kind of your breath with music? Was there a moment when you were younger, when you were a single digits teenager? Was there a couple of moments that you said, this is really what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Can I tell you a quick story
I would love it.
Of how, I realized there was something to music? I will tell you a story. I'll try to keep it brief. I've told this story to my friends. When I was in high school, 10th grade, I used to go to these rehearsals. A friend of mine was a guitarist in a band. And I would just go to their rehearsals and they would play, but they had no singer. And and I remember them talking about this party that they were about to play, and they had no singer. And I said, well, I can sing. I'd never sang in my life, So I just dove in, man, and started singing with this band. Anyway, we play this party. I think it went well. I have no idea. But a lot of people were there. And it was on a Saturday. I'll never forget it. And the following Monday, I was in high school, and I was walking down the hall going to lunch. And I heard a voice behind me say, hey, Eric. And I turned around, and it was a girl named Lisa Dunn, who ended up being our prom queen. A girl who would have never talked to me, ever. But I turned around and I said, hey, Lisa. And she said, oh, I heard you sang at this party. It sounded really good. And I said, ooh, music.
Yeah. All right.
And I think the seed was planted right there. But that's something that I'll never forget. This girl would have never talked to me had I sang at a silly little party.
Where's Lisa Dunn now? Any idea?
I ran into her once at a Caps game, maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I got so excited. I saw her in line for concessions. I went up. I said, hey, Lisa, you probably don't remember. And she looked at me like she had no clue.
Oh, I love that.
No clue who I was. But I just remember the feeling of being up there with musicians and the power of creating music and having people listen. I just, I was hooked right then and there.
Right. Talk a little bit about some of these experiences that you had as a sideman. I know the huge, initial one or two, and then you got to hang out and play a little bit, and also open for some of these amazing people. What were pick a couple of those experiences with some of these names that really stood out to you?
Wow. Well, I was lucky enough to get the bass chair gig with a fantastic local musician named Deanna Bogart.
Yes.
Yeah, back in the mid 90s. Great musician. I learned so much with her. As soon as I joined her band, we immediately went on the road. Back then, we were on the road 150, 180 days a year. And in her band, I mean, we opened up for Ray Charles, James Brown,
wow,
B.B. King, some pretty notable people. And it was amazing watching B.B. King play and then talking to him afterwards. I mean, we're talking about, he could not have been a more nicer, humble, gracious human being. He was just such a nice man. I was just blown away. And we're talking B.B. King.
Right.
James Brown stood next to me, and I was too scared to say anything to him. Plus there was a giant bodyguard on the other side of him.
Right.
But I mean, it's just, I feel very lucky that I've been able to, share the stage with people like that. I've learned a great deal from it.
Yeah, Deanna was really central to you. And I know when we talked a few months back, that was really something, as you just intimated, that really helped propel you along and made things really kind of solidify in your own core. Why was that with Deanna?
Well, before I joined Deanna's band, I had never toured before. I didn't know what it was like to be in a van with 3 other people for 6 weeks at a time. And let me tell you, that's a smack to the face. It is. It'll wake you up. But that's where I learned how to be a real musician. What it means to show up at a gig, dog tired, but to give your very, very best. What it means to eat road food, be out there. I mean, you got to really like somebody to be on the road with them 6 weeks at a time, stuck in a car. And Deanna was great because when we would play, she would push you on stage and she would challenge you to come out of your comfort zone. And I'll never forget, I had told her a story about me seeing a bass player do a scat solo, And I told her about that story, and we were on a stage, and she looked at me in the middle of a performance and said, "Eric, scat right now." And I was petrified. I said, "What? Now?" I just did it without thinking about it. And again, I'm just so grateful to her for pushing me and helping me grow musically.
Do you keep in touch with Deanna?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We'll be doing some shows later this year. She's in California now. But.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask if you were going to be doing some stuff. There's a couple of things, as we kind of come to a close soon here, that you have been through in your life. You also went sober in 1990. Was that a big part of your life to kind of do it? A musician, let's be real, the propensity and the temptation and the live it, all at night kind of life. What did that mean to you to kind of get a new start?
Oh my God, it saved my life. I can't put it any plainer than that. From a young age, it took many years of therapy, and the way I was raised, I knew why I drank and drugged. There were things that I was trying to escape from and push way down and not deal with. But my life was really, really out of control. It just got worse and worse until I was 27. I think I had a guardian angel, that made me realize enough is enough. I went to rehab for the second time. The first time I went, I relapsed after 3 months. The second time I went, I would have crawled there, literally. I literally had enough. And I'm just grateful that I did make it to a rehab. A lot of people don't. A lot of friends of mine are not here anymore. But it was something that I needed to do. And I've been 29 years sober, and I'm just eternally grateful. I thank God every day.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. I've got friends in the same situation, and congratulations to you, man. And you know, it's a huge thing that a musician can do that. But when you look at it, all the musicians that thrive and survive, and you know, for years and years, have been able to do that. Been able to kind of kick something aside and do it. So congratulations to you on that. A couple of the things that you said, and I read in research, and we talked a little bit about this back in our interview, but you talk a little bit about making the most honest music that you can. What does that mean, Eric, to you, making honest music?
It means talking about things in your life that you might be uncomfortable talking about, but knowing that you have to talk about them, number one, kind of to deal with them in your own way so that you can get through them and get past them, and number two, knowing that you're possibly going to help someone by dealing with it. I've talked about some things in my songs that, you know, quite honestly, I would have never thought that I would have talked about them. But,
Right.
You know, I did a record in 2012 called Where the Water Runs Deepest, where I basically purged. That was my, I'm going to get it all out. There was a song on there where I talked about, you know, going to my therapist and really talking about the deepest, darkest stuff. And that song was so personal that I didn't want to put it on the record. But Scott Smith, the producer, said, he insisted. He's like, no, put that on your record. And that's the tune that people will say to me that they've listened to, and it's helped them. And I know that when I listen to other artists and they bare their souls, honestly, it resonates with me, you know. So it wasn't really a conscious decision. I just think, you know, some people are willing to go there, and when you see that it can actually help people and it can actually help you deal with things, that's what you do. That's what an artist does.
Yeah, that's a wonderful description. I'm a lifelong Bruce Springsteen fan, and Bruce does it all the time. You kind of defined the way that he and many other great artists have kind of taken on their musical careers. But kudos to you on that. One other thing that you mentioned, Eric, was talking a little bit about embracing the uniqueness of oneself. What does that mean to you? Does that mean your own unique style? Does it mean your own unique heart? Just maybe touch on that a little, just for a minute.
I think artistically, you have to be fearless. You know, I think artistically, you're going to have influences that are going to seep into your music. Sometimes someone would hear me and, oh, I hear Marvin Gaye in there, or, oh, I hear Sam Cooke. But at the end of the day, I just think you have to be someone who doesn't try to chase a particular sound, and just do what is true and feels right to you. And if it's honest and it's uniquely you, people will resonate with it. You will find the people that you are meant to find. When I first started writing, you know, I remember trying to write, oh, I'm going to write a song like Eddie Money, or I'm going to try to sound like such and such here, you know, but the more you do it, the more you realize, man, I have to sound like me. And I couldn't even tell you what that is, you know, what I sound like, but it's me, and I try to be true to it.
Well, you know, again, what a wonderful way to kind of close to wrap up talking to you, Eric, because that's what I've noticed, is the uniqueness of yourself and the uniqueness of what you do. When I was asked to do that Elvis Costello thing, I'm a midlife cover band guy who plays, you know, bars and sings cover songs. And to be asked by Ron Newmeyer to come and be with you guys, career musicians, top of shelf, to be able to see you sing, I was like, this guy's like nobody I've seen. And I remember meeting you in the dressing room, in the green room at the Barnes of Wolf Trap during the show, and I was in awe. No. You know, and we're talking now, we're kind of buds, you know, hanging out. We hung out at Wolf Trap, you, me, Gina, and Suzanne a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really embrace that last thought, is that you are an incredibly unique talent, and I can't wait to see what you burst out of this pandemic with and continue to do it. Before we say goodbye, I'd love to have you do a little more music. We've got a wonderful audience online, and that people that will watch this after. And when it comes down to it, it's about your music. Give us one more tune. What are you going to play for us?
I would love to. Thank you. With everything that's going on right now, you know, people are rising up. They realize that in order to affect change. I mean, change always starts with 1, 2 people, and it grows from there until it's a bunch of like-minded people. And that's when they can start to affect change. So this next song is about that very notion. And the title is simple. It's called Everybody. So, because that's what it's going to take for us to get through this craziness that we're experiencing right now. We all got to come together on this, man.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, let's talk about the world. It seems sanity has vanished without a trace. And I'm scared of what the children of tomorrow face. My Mother Earth is bleeding, and she cries at night for peace. And her tears bring no relief. Let's talk about love. Can't understand why people do each other like they do. If we want to see some change, it's got to start with me and you. Turn our ears to Brother Marvin. Only love can conquer hate. I just hope it's not too late. Yeah. Everybody listen to me. See the world as you want it to be. You want to be somebody. It takes everybody. Lend a hand to someone in need. Right or wrong, show some mercy. Want to be somebody. It takes everybody. It's gonna take a lot of love. Yeah. Now let's talk about hope. We can sow the seeds and together we can watch them grow. Sit through the storm and see a beautiful rainbow. My faith flag is flying. It's not as hard as it may seem. Can we all share in my dream? Oh, yeah. Everybody listen to me. See the world as you want it to be. You want to be somebody. It takes everybody. Lend a hand to someone in need. Right or wrong, show some mercy. Be somebody. It takes everybody. It's gonna take a lot of love. Yeah. No more sitting on the sideline waiting for someone to say go. You're not part of the audience. You're part of the show. Everybody listen to me. Yeah. Let's keep it going, Steve. Everybody listen to me. See the world as you want it to be. You want to be somebody. It takes everybody. Lend a hand to someone in need. Right or wrong, show some mercy. Be somebody. It takes everybody. It's gonna take a lot of love. Yeah. It's gonna take everybody. Gonna take everybody. Gonna take everybody. Gonna take everybody. It's gonna take everybody. Gonna take everybody.
Oh, yeah. What a beautiful, beautiful way to end this time with you, Eric. That's the uniqueness of one's self and soul, man. Thank you. That is just beautiful stuff. Look, I'm wishing you nothing but the best, peace and love to your family through this extraordinarily difficult time, but also to you. I want to do this again with you, and maybe in the next couple of months we can see how this thing has panned out. We can see, you can talk about your live gigs out playing in front of real people again. What I loved is your niece, Kat Scott, chimed in and said, "Love you, Uncle E, the most talented and awesome guy out there." So,
Oh, that's my
yeah.
incredible niece, Catherine Scott, who's about to be a Maryland delegate, but don't get me to be the bragging uncle. She's amazing.
Yeah, and Kat worked with the Zebra. She was part of the world here as a budding journalist, and really kind of shined brightly. So that's always so nice. Yeah, some wonderful people pipe in. Man, I love you. Be well. Keep in touch. And let's conquer this thing musically, and just keep doing what you're doing, and let's stay close. All right.
Man, I love you too, Steve. I cannot thank you. I want to thank you and David for having me on ZTV. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Anytime you want me to be on, I will gladly come and kick it around with you, my friend.
All right, a regular guest will to no doubt will happen. But thank you, Eric Scott. We love you, man. We'll be in touch again soon. Really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow. This is why I wanted to do these shows. This is probably one of the more moving shows we've had. To be able to sit and talk to a guy like Eric was wonderful. We've got an incredible next few shows as well. This Monday on the 8th is Siobhan O'Brien, who is one of the area's most incredible musicians from Limerick, Ireland, and lives in Alexandria and has been a lifelong musician, incredibly powerful singer, songwriter, played with Bob Dylan, played with the Chieftains, has been an incredible force in her own way. And Siobhan will be joining me on Monday at 7 o'clock, so we're really excited about that. On the 15th, Eric knows Patty Reese, one of the great local musicians. Dave Chappell was on a few weeks ago and talked heavily about Patty, and Patty has made me honored and privileged to have her on the 15th. And then on the 22nd, a really unique musician. She is, what do you call her, one of the guitar girls. I had Steph Paynes on from Led Zeppelin not long ago, and Allie's in the same vein. Her name's Allie Handel. She's a tremendous singer-songwriter, guitar player, and from California, and I'm honored to have her on. So please stay with ZTV on Monday nights at 7. Make it your place to go. You're going to see people like Eric Scott and all these amazing people perform. A reminder that Living on Music is a production of the Zebra Press. Our executive producer, technical director, and man who runs the show, David McClure. Thank you again so much for all that you do for this place. We wouldn't be here without you. You can visit the Zebra at zebra.org, the website, as well as on the Good News Zebra Facebook page, and ZTV. Obviously, you can find Eric's episode, as well as all the episodes of Living on Music and all the programs, upwards of 60 now, that have happened since this network launched at the beginning of this craziness. The big deal is that Zebra newspaper had to step down for a little while, as a lot of publications did. The Zebra will be back, and I think either is back now or will be back in the next week. So please look for the Zebra newspaper, because it's been a staple of Alexandria and this area of Northern Virginia for a long time. So that's going to be very exciting to have a little bit of press and paper in the hand. I still read the Washington Post every day, every morning of my life with breakfast. If I can't read the paper, I don't feel like, maybe it's because I wrote for the Wilton Bulletin when I was 7. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me again. Thanks to my guest, Eric Scott. What a wonderful 35 minutes with that guy. We will be back next Monday at 7. Until then, please take a few minutes, take 5 minutes, and be good.